feel it's something you enjoy. Something which is, yeah, you enjoy music, so you get to it one time. But if myself and Chaim David, more precise, Chaim David and I would say something, you wouldn't be able to hear both of us, right? It wouldn't be just speaking, not singing.
Well, maybe speaking is different than singing.
Right, because singing also you enjoy, so you don't.
Not because I enjoy it.
Oh, so you don't have to follow.
It's two different frequencies. It'd be like if you look on a graph, you would see a line here and a line here. It's easy to distinguish. Maybe vocal, maybe speaking voices are two.
You don't have to also
equal.
Also, you don't have to figure out what I'm saying and what he's saying. By singing, you know, they're saying the same words. It's not. You have to figure it out. Here, you have to figure out the message.
When I was in Hebrew school, Mar Perkel boasted that he could listen to somebody saying Kriya Shema and talk to somebody in English, and talk to somebody else, or hear somebody speaking English and hear somebody speaking Hebrew and understand everything. He would know if he made a mistake, and he would know what he said in Hebrew, not what he said.
It's very weird. There are people.
That's very weird, and also I don't know.
No, I know
this was not a from Hebrew school, so Harper Kell probably the place was. Who's Harper Kell? He was my Hebrew teacher.
It says we're talking about. Welcome everybody. Whoever came on now. A side issue we're talking about. Since we spoke about reading the Megillah, if someone's reading, one of the people in the shul is reading the Megillah at the same time the Baal Koreh. So we said that if he has only a chumash, so he's reading Baal Peh, and he himself is might
and he's bothering it.
And so people might listen to him, and then they're listening to it being read without a Megillah. He himself might also listen to the Baal Koreh more than he's listening to himself, but listen to himself more than he's listening to the Baal Koreh. So we said that's preferable that he should not. And even if he was reading with a Megillah, kosher Megillah, but and someone who would be listening to him theoretically could be Yotzei because he's reading from a kosher Megillah. But Chaim David pointed out that the person who's reading doesn't usually have kavanah to Mimos anybody. He thinks he's doing his own thing. And if someone's going to be listening to him and not listening to the Baal Koreh, so that's also problematic. It's not going to be Yotzei. Then we went into a side subject about every Kriyas Torah, that some people, they read Ma'aber Seder, they do Shnai Mikra while the Baal Koreh is reading. And even though it's not as serious as the Megillah maybe, because he wouldn't have to go to hear the whole parsha again just because he missed it, but the Koreh, he's not hearing the Baal Koreh to read. So how is it that there's such a custom that it is, some people, they do read the parsha from the Chumash while the Baal Koreh is reading. And besides, that's disturbing for people who cannot hear because of him, but also he himself, how is he Yotzei the reading? So I just found it, I didn't see what it says, and it's opening up now. This is in Hilchos Shabbos Reish Pei Hey. And halacha hey, Yochel likros haparsha shnai mikra v'chatargum b'shas kriyas Torah. You may. And this is a machaber. And the Ramah says to look in Kuf Mem Vav, which maybe we'll do if you don't find it over here. Here the Mishnah Berurah says in Kuf Mem Vav, the Magen Avraham brings down the shlah that's machmir. Everyone should hear from the Shliach Tzibur, and so too does the Gerah say so in Ma'aseh Rav.
And you shouldn't read it the same time.
But that's what not and that's what we're talking about.
I'm sorry, we're talking about saying you may what?
The Shulchan Aruch says you may read the Shnai Mikra. You could do your own reading from the Chumash while read along together with the Shliach Tzibur. The Baal Koreh is reading the Torah, and you read softly along together with him. Shulchan Aruch says you may. I'll try to find out more, but so far just listen.
The Beis Yosef.
The Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah says to look back in 146. This is in 286. And he says, look back in 146. We'll look back in a minute. But here, Mishnah Berurah brings down that the Magen Avraham brings down from the Shlah not to, and everyone should hear the Baal Koreh reading. And so too, the Gerah says so in Ma'aseh Rav, that you have to hear every word and to look into the Chumash and not to help along. Mm-hmm. And they seem to hold like the Shibboleth Leket in the name of his Rebbe and the Ram that's brought down in the Agos Maimonides, the Beis Yosef, that they only can learn between aliyahs, but not during the Kriya. But then the Mishnah Berurah continues, but it seems that it's that it is permissible to read along quietly, word for word, with the Baal Koreh, because since he's also trying to hear from the Shliach Tzibur, it's okay. And the Magen Avraham
Since he's
says,
trying to hear while he's doing it.
and he's saying it softly, and he's trying to hear also. And the Magen Avraham brings down from the Mata Moshe that Lachatchila he should do so. And so
this is still of the opinion like the Shulchan Aruch.
it's going that even if he says, Shulchan Aruch says you may.
Right.
And then he brings down the Shlomo Magen and the Gra says not to. And he says he should not have. Then he says, but even so, he says that that it permissible to read along softly and also listening at the same time. And the Magen Avraham says in the name of the Mata Moshe that it's even proper to do so. I don't know why.
Two extremes in the middle.
No, but all those things that are saying yes, because he's listening, that assumes that he's going to say it soft enough that he's not disturbing anybody else.
Could be.
But this could be that he's sitting in the corner in the big stand, and I'm there standing one. This is not talking about the problem, but
I
I'm
thought that
not
they added that because he's listening. So if he's listening, he's not so he's makpid that he hears it, but not so makpid that he doesn't hear it.
I don't know if people know this, but I don't understand it. I don't know why it's preferable. And then the Mishnah Berurah brings down, well, he's explaining what the Ramah says. The Ramah says, look back in 146. So he says over there, the Mechaber, the Shulchan Aruch himself says that it's Nachon Medaktik B'Dvarav L'Chavin Daita, that the one who's Medaktik, the person who's a precise person, whatever, he should listen to the Baal Koreh, because he's Choshesh for those poskim will say that, well, we said that some poskim say that he should not. So the Mishnah Berurah, everything, he says you should not, but he does say to do it quietly and to listen at the same time is permissible, maybe even preferable. Seems like finish to me.
So now you know why people do it, because you have a strong.
But surely, if they're disturbing somebody, then surely.
When he said you may, and then in 146, the Ramah was who
The Ramah. I could look back at 146.
Even preferable.
No, not 146. In 146, I forgot what he said about it.
146, the Mishnah Berurah says that over there, the Shulchan Aruch said that it's better to listen. I'll just look it up to get it straight. 146. 146 is
he said you may, but earlier he had says that it listen.
right. And here the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say that. The Mishnah Berurah says that some say dafka to listen, and he says that even those who say dafka to listen, he seems to say that it's okay to say it softly and maybe even preferable. Kuf Mem Vav. This is all about not speaking during Kriyas Torah. Torah is mutter. But it says it's mutter. It's mutter to say the Torah, to read along. Not Parsha Zohar, he says. Okay, let's pass that. And then he says Anachon, and more preferable is that by all the Parshios, he should listen to the Baal Koreh. Mishnah Berurah says on that.
Hey, who was that? That
was the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says that it's permissible to read along with the Baal Koreh, but they use off that it's preferable that by all the Parshas, not only Parsha Zohar, they say Parsha Zohar then and Parah, but he says not to. Just to listen, just to listen, and it's proper that by all the parashiyos he should he should just listen. Unless no, all the parashiyos in the Torah. So the Mishnah Berurah says that even though it says not to talk during Kriyas Torah, but it's mutter, because since it's similar to what the Baal Koreh is reading, even though he's not reading, he's not even reading the same pasuk as the Shliach Tzibor. But he says, of course, do it slowly that nobody else should hear you.
Oh, there you go. That's
right. And then all these coolies he says is not during Parshas Zohar and Parshas Parah. And then he says, even to do Ma'aber Sedra while the Kriyas Torah is not the best. It's better to listen. Then he says that, yes?
Who said that?
This is all the Shulchan Aruch.
Oh, the Shulchan Aruch says that himself.
Right. That's why
it's not the best.
It's not the best, even though here he says this in Reish Pei. I forgot Reish Pei Dalet Reish Pei Hey over there. He says that's mutter. He just says that's mutter. He just says that is mutter.
It's mutter.
And he doesn't say that it's better not to. And the Ramah says refer to over there where he said that it's better not to. And then the Mishnah Berurah over there in 146 says if Yechodesh says the Mikra Adin is usher to say anything during the reading, even Shnai Mikra Targum, he doesn't go for all of that. and so too the Magen Avraham says in the name of the Shlah. You have to be quiet and they have to create the Torah, and so the Gra also says so. And then the Mishnah Berurah again says, but to do Shamir Kavach Targum with Rashi in Gavra Lagav. Okay, that's in between all these. That's okay. The Magen Avraham brings down from the Matan Moshe that it's proper, but it's good to read quietly, word for word with the Shliach Tzibur, because without that it's impossible to concentrate. That helps you to concentrate to read along.
That doesn't mean out loud. Maybe that means read with your eyes.
So he's saying B'lachash, Mila B'mila. He says, no, he's saying B'lachash means whisper, to whisper.
Yeah.
So it's not a point about saying it, and the contrary, the less you say, the better. It's just a trick
So
how
if
to
you
read
can't
it.
point your finger on the place,
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah,
That's a
and
trick
point
to
and
concentrate.
point at the place probably just as good. You can't point to the
Probably
place.
even better.
Yes, because you can't keep on pointing if you don't know what if something's going in. And he says Samach when I'm saying like that. What is there in the bottom over here? Okay, brings down. Halachically, the point is you're supposed to listen. You're supposed to be quiet. And the issue would be that maybe if people can't concentrate, maybe it helps them to concentrate by whispering along. But whisper very low that no one should hear. You don't have to hear yourself either. Better to hear the chazan. Try to hear the chazan and say it as low as you can. And if you can, I would say, if you can concentrate without whispering, do that. Do that. Okay, and then my problem was that you can't hear if you're
hearing it,
hearing it on a regular Kriyas Torah, we say that usually you can't hear two voices. Okay, here we're saying that he could if he wants to. I don't get it. But regular Kriyas Torah, you don't say that. Only about a
One
Megillah.
second, also maybe your own
voice.
maybe your own voice is different.
It's what you could hear somebody else. You could, I think they hear your own voice more than you hear somebody else's voice. I don't get it. Okay, but that's the halacha. But that's the Gemara says Kriyas Torah not. That's what it says. That Shnaim cannot read the Megillah, but cannot read the Torah, but when a Megillah yes. Megillah is called Chavik. Regular Kriyas Torah is not.
Maybe that's what I'm saying. It's called his own voice.
So that's even worse. That's worse. That's worse. That's worse.
He wants to concentrate.
His own voice is Chaviv. That's why he's. So
Hear himself,
it's
not,
worse.
and then the Balkara.
The Balkara is
Yeah, it's Chavel hear himself more than the Balkara.
But it's very clearly, very clearly, but that's, I'm sorry, what is Chaviv? It is Mishnah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
What's Mishnah?
So Kriyas Torah is Chaviv by him.
No, it's not. It's not. The Gemara says not like that. The Gemara says that Megillah. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says that you cannot have two Balei Koreh on a regular Kriyas Torah, but you can have by the Megillah Sester because that's Chaviv. The Gemara says that's not like that. The Gemara says Kriyas Torah is not enough Chaviv. Maybe it should be, like he's saying, but it seems that it's not. Okay, so back to Megillah.
Or maybe the pursuing Nisa makes it fun.
Good. Why is Megillah Sester Chaviv? Okay, whatever Shatil said. Come once a year. And,
Oh, it's great, nice. It's very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yes.
It's,
special niggin, whatever.
yeah, that's
Okay, so back
all
to.
love. All love. Play music. After that, the Lake's house.
Okay,
What?
so what do we say about this? Oh, so Chaim David mentioned, let's get back to the subject, that even if somebody has a Megillah, one of the members of the shul has a Megillah and he's reading along because he thinks he's has a Megillah, what could be wrong? But what might be wrong is that even though he's reading, but he's not intending to, he's not being most anybody, he doesn't have mind to most anybody. And if he does, people will say, please don't. We came to hear about Korah, right? So,
And also another reason I created, Balkara knows the truth, and he does.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's better off here, if you could hear from Balkara,
Yes.
better off.
And also, he's reading by himself then. If he's reading a personal reading that nobody else hears, and he's supposed to read with 10 people. We'll see soon that the Chazal should have 10 people. Just because 10 people in the room, that's not called a public reading. It has to be that the public reader. So you don't gain by reading
10 people in
along.
a room and everybody's reading by themselves doesn't do anything.
Right. So I don't get the, so the reason why people,
Let's say that clearly, 10 people by itself, and then when we do it, won't be considered public.
I think for sure.
I was clear.
Excuse me, but something that came up yesterday was that for women, there should be 10 women.
We'll see that coming up.
Okay, and if a man is reading for them, is he considered one of the 10 men?
I
or
would
should
think
be 10
so.
women?
I would think so. It's for some reason. The
10
fact that there are 10 people, 10 people that are higher.
It's a presuming goes.
Right. I see.
All the gen.
So I was going to say soon that it's not so simple. I told yesterday it was simple. I think we'll see what about that. I think they make it on that, but we'll see in a second. I just looked a little bit ahead. Anyway, so the halach is that the person who reads the Megillah has to have kavanah to be motzi, and the listener has to have kavanah to be yotze. If the shliach tzibur, that's his job to read for the tzibur, so when he's reading, so he doesn't mind anybody that's listening, even if he's not in the shul, even if he's next door, outside the shul. But somebody's reading at home privately, so then even though you happen to hear him well, but you're not Yosef because he didn't have kavanah to be most of you. Only if he had told him to farish. The next halacha is that, it's still in halacha 14, that we're not medactic in the mistakes. Means if the Balkor made a mistake, it's okay. But right away he explains, everyone jumps up, of course. We're not allowed for mistakes. But the shochet halacha is that if it's a mistake which doesn't change the meaning, you don't have to change him. You don't have to correct him. Like it says, Yehudim, Yehudiyim. If he said either way, it will be good. It will be okay.
Same true by Sefer Torah. Reading the Torah.
Yes, if it doesn't change the meaning, you don't. I think I say Torah also.
I'm a little surprised that you even with Bichlal can, because even if you read half of it, up to 50%, if not 49% incorrectly, it's still kosher. Why we?
Can you say that again?
I was under the impression that even if you read up to 51% correctly and 49 incorrectly, it's still a kosher read.
Any correction?
No.
I don't think that's true. That has to do with the writing. It has to do with the writing, not with the
Let me
reading.
get this right.
You can't miss one word.
What am I missing?
You know, the listener cannot even miss one word.
A letter can.
Even a letter, even the halacha you're talking about is the reading, the writing.
So the
The
writing
writing.
can be 51% there,
Right.
but the reading
Has to be 100%.
has been- So take it back.
Okay,
Made a mistake.
okay.
Erred.
So that's what it says, that even though if you made a mistake, but as long as the mistake doesn't change the meaning. And Chaim David saying that applies to the regular Kriyas Torah also, that you only correct the Balkori if it makes a change in the meaning. But if it doesn't have a change in the meaning, you don't correct him. How come it says Dafka over here? This is Yerushalmi over here.
Because I would think the Megillah is more.
You would have thought that it's more Kamash
I'm
Lan
not
that
sure.
it's not.
I was told once, I think if I remember correctly, I heard from Devin Sal a number of years ago. The created by Moshe. I know Chris Tebe, he says Shnai Mikra, even if you don't read 100% correct, it is you went through the process.
But Kriyas Torah.
It could be maybe something similar, more similar by Chris Tebe.
I thought that like ace and S, it doesn't change the meaning, doesn't it? If somebody
No.
says ace instead
No.
of S.
It's not even a different word. It's just the diktuk of the. It's even less than. It's the same word exactly. It's not even. It's.
Okay, but a lot
Yeah,
of times
but it's
people,
even-
especially in certain portions that have a lot of.
They shouldn't correct them for that.
And they-
I understand.
And but the truck, if it changes, can
The
change.
trouble
the
can
meaning.
change the meaning. The when you make a punctuation, you make it stop. The not punctuation. The cantillation could which is punctuation in other words, that it affects the way you made the pause if it changes the pshat. So also I think to go back.
It's rough. It's a firing boat, right? It's rough. If somebody's not still in the truck.
It does. I forgot. I remember over there in that discussion over there, they talked about how could he be Mavayish a Jew?
Right, I never understand how do you explain
And the
that.
answer is because if he took the job,
That's right.
so that's his job.
Oh, you mean to correct somebody?
Yeah,
One
that's
second, one second, so I get it. If a Maggid Shir made a big mistake,
No, you correct
you're
it.
not embarrassed because you're happy when you correct him. But when somebody else Maggid Shir is about that as a guy, and you correct him when he says a shir, and you don't have to get.
so. The Gemara talks about that. The Gemara where it says this point is when there was shear for the Talmidim, and then let's say Shabbos Shuva, Shabbos Gadol, that all the people come. So then the Gemara says there was a Talmud that used to ask questions during the shear, but he didn't ask when there was a public shear. And it says some derech Avinu b'yesh Elokim that he thinks that during the year, the Talmid Chachamim and the Talmidim, they understand that if Rebbe makes a mistake, he's still a Rebbe. But when there's a whole town comes in and he makes a mistake, so then that's embarrassing. for him.
And the shvach.
So he did not correct him. He did not ask questions. Not a question of correcting him. He didn't ask any questions. That's called some
No,
day.
that,
If he made a mistake in halacha, so then he should tell him before the year is over, whatever. Somebody he should correct. No one should make a mistake. But it doesn't have any ramifications for the tzibur, so then better not to do it in public. I guess it depends. So he's saying about Gorenborg. Okay, I just remember that subject talks about over there. One of the postscripts say that don't embarrass him, but I think they talk about this point.
If someone's not his job.
And he's doing a favor. They called him up.
But you have to find a coattail sometimes. They
They need
don't find
somebody.
workers, they get a kid,
The
whatever.
best that he could do. So
Right,
that.
then he should. Then it's not his fault. But he's not
So,
getting money.
right. So you should say no corrections only if he makes a mistake in the pshat. And the people don't know the pshat. So there should be one person over there that's he's in charge of making corrections. No one else should make any corrections.
Then I had another chiddush. It could be if the night on Monday and Thursday, if they finish the night, the 10 of Sukkot, you shouldn't correct.
Because they also decree anyway. Okay, could be. Then, okay, the next one. Halacha Tesva 15. You're supposed to say the 10 sons of Haman and the word Aseres, which right after Vaizasa, Aseres. So you're supposed to say the 10 sons of Haman and the word Aseres in your one breath. In order to Lodia, all of them were killed simultaneously and hung simultaneously. Just to point out, this is a simple thing, but people don't realize that they weren't hung by the gallows. That's not the way that they killed them. That's just a simple thing that they were killed. Yes, it says opening the pasuk that they were killed on the 13th, like together with the first war. And then Esther, the king asked Esther, "What can I do? What else can I do?" And she said that they should hang up the 10 sons of Haman who were killed already. She asked, and also she asked that they should be hung up, and also thank you, and also they should have another day in Shushan.
Well, at the same time, that's what she meant.
That's what she asked. So it's open possible that they were killed already. They were killed on the 13th, and they were hung up on the 14th. So it's nothing to do with the gallows. There's no gallows, and it could even be that they didn't have a head on when they were hung up. It's not hanging. That we call hanging.
They could have been killed by the sword.
Right. And they talk about that. They were killed by the sword and they were beheaded and then they were hung up. Nothing to do with each other. That they were killed simultaneously. And they were also hung up simultaneously.
On the simultaneously meaning the same day.
Maybe even simultaneously mamish. I don't know. I don't know if simultaneously means mamish. But okay, 10 the 10 people came, they killed them. I don't know how they killed them.
10 people killed them.
Yeah. Tafka lachatchila, the Ramah says, but if you interrupted or even a long time, you waited in between your yotze. It's not a question of being yotze. You show the yotze, but lachatchila to read it in one breath. Lachatchila, there's a minhag even to do a little bit more. The words before chamesh meosish. Means really you can start base pashandasa based on and aseres. But
you don't need aseres b'nei.
No, aseres.
Just aseres.
Right, you can let go then. Aseres. And lachatchila, there's another minhag. There's a minhag already. The first one is Gemara. The Rabada and Megillah over there he says that you should say aseres b'nei Haman and aseres in one breath. And there's a minhag to also say the words before 3 more words chamesh meosish. To say those 3 words also before to get also in the one breath. If you can't do it, so we move on to that. Means
Begins with that's a rough, and then you can add the other
3. It begins with base Pashandasa, who's the first of the 10, and it ends with the word Aseres. And the Chatchila 3 more words before Chamesh Meosish. He says here because the Chamesh Meosish might have also been under the command of the Aseres B'nei Haman. He says each one was a Sar Chamishim. That's a pshat that somebody says. That's the reason for that custom. He says if you can't do everything, so then forego on the first 3 words, don't forego on the last word. If you can't do it at all, you can't do it. You can't have Korah that he doesn't know how to do it, so okay, you can't do it. But if he could do the 10 sons of Haman together with the word Aseres, even though he can't do Chamesh Meosish, so okay, forego about that. But don't start Chamesh Meosish and let go and then forego on the Aseres. Okay. Halacha 16. Sarich Shema, you should say, everyone's supposed to say, Aru Haman Baruch Mordechai, Aru Zeresh, Rucha Esther, Aruim Kol HaGoyim, Ruchim Kol Yisrael. Nowadays they have other gifts, Aruim Kol HaRishon, Ruchim Kol HaTzadikim. Here it says Aruim Kol HaGoyim, Ruchim Kol Yisrael. Of course, it means the bit going probably. And he also should say, V'gam Chavon Zachol HaTov. That's what the Gemara says all this, that he should say also, V'gam Chavon Zachol HaTov. I'm sorry, it's Yerushalmi, he says.
You should also say what?
Gam Chavon Zachol HaTov. So Chavon also should be remembered for good. What's good about Chavon? Because he's the one at first.
The Surah that not the Surah. He informed the king
that Haman had built
prepared a tree for.
And that's what Achashverosh says, kill him and hang him on it. And I'm sorry.
Where should you say that?
During the day sometime. We say it in Shoshanas Yaakov. We say it in that peel. People say it many times during the day.
I see. Okay.
What are we going to say? Something?
I was going to say.
I was going in the meantime, till you remember. Zerai, they let it first for Shai. You were looking for a tape to curse. This Rishon, it says from this field.
I wouldn't call it Hashem.
I was gonna say that I think you or somebody else said that Charbona was originally not a good.
Yeah, the pasuk says so.
What was the thing that he did?
Does the pasuk say so?
Because I think that he wasn't good, and then at this point he turned around to benefit.
Where do we find that? I'm
I
forgetting.
thought he was sort of an opportunist.
Yes, so that means that in the beginning we saw that he was bad. What do we have Chavon in the beginning being bad? Right. So where do we see that? We see. I'm forgetting if we see it in the Megillah or Sasha Mary. I'm forgetting. I don't like this. I mean, it's like. Chavona was over there. I'm
I'm sorry, where are you?
I see Chavona in Perik Aleph Pasuk Yud, but that doesn't do that. That you don't see that he was in on anything. From there, you don't see anything, right? You don't see from there anything about him being bad or in on anything.
Like it's worse.
Sorry for taking time. That's it. It just says it 2 times. It says Chavona, as far as I see in the
At the
computer.
beginning.
It only says in the beginning, then it says it at the end. He's the one who said Gaminei Ha'etz. So I guess it's a Gemara that says that originally he was in on it. One time it is interesting. One time it's spelled with an aleph at the end. One time it's spelled with a hey. And the pshat you might say somebody else. I don't know. But the Drash says that it's the same person. It's. I imagine that's a Gemara. Let's look into the Gemara over here.
Where's the pasuk? No, where he says that he made a gallows.
At the end, when he was killing him, when he was ordered to be killed.
Just after she was on the bed, he jumped on the bed to beg for mercy. And he went out of his to the garden and he was furious.
Carbonara, here it is. I see it in 7:9. I think over
I'm
here.
not below. That's a Gemara. Thank you. That's in Megillah Tez Zayin. Thank you. So that's a Gemara. Af Chavon Rasha Bosa Eitzayah, V'chivin Shavah Shalom Eskayim Vatzesa.
Zion Tet. Zion Tet. Is that what you said?
You're talking about the psukim. I just think the Gemara. Let's show me the Gemara.
I'm sorry.
That's where in the pasuk. Go ahead. The pasuk says Yom Chavona.
ביום החרבונה, אחד מן הסוריסים לפני המלך גם הנה העץ אשר עשה מרדכי אשר דיבר טוב על המלך עומד בבייס המן גבוה 50 אמה ואומר ויאמר המלך תלו הוא
Allah. Hang him on. So
That should be a
thank you.
תלו הוא עליו.
So we don't see in the Megillah this thing.
The whole thing about Harbon.
We don't see that he was bad.
But I thought over here there was a thing that we're saying, blessed is he.
Chavon
I
is
thought I learned something about it over here. That he said he saw the way things were going. So I thought he was.
that's what the Gemara says. That's what the Gemara just said. That he really was both sides. So when he saw that he's losing, so he went over to the other side. Why?
Ted, what did you say?
I had the Tafteh Zayin.
Ted.
That's what it. So it just says that he was originally was on Haman's side, and he was on the scheme to hang Haman, and then he came over. When he saw he's losing, so he went over to the other side. But I don't see where the Gemara gets it from. Where does the Gemara get it from?
They give a lot of praise to Charbon. If you think about it, all of Israel singing that.
It's Charbon.
It's the
Some say-
What do we say? What are we saying? Latov.
Some say that this I don't know where I got it from. That some say Eliyahu because Eliyahu Zachor Latom say it was really Eliyahu Hanavi. That's
But I
why.
thought that's what the drush is.
So the one doesn't say that. I don't know where that comes
Right, I
from.
remember that. That's what I was remembering. That is always.
Oh, the Carmona is Elio at the end here.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're already saying Zechor Tov, it's applicable to Eliyahu. No,
How do you know you say Elio?
I don't
No,
know.
no,
I don't know.
no. How do you know Elio? You say Zecholato.
That's another question. Maybe we say it all the time.
So where's it come from?
You tell me.
From Matzah Shabbos.
Mir Shabbos.
Okay. There's a custom that when you say about the Mishnah brings down, they say Balayla Hahu, not the Dashnas Hamelach. So the Chazan raises his voice because from there the miracle starts. Till there was a problem, and then things change over. Balayla Hahu, Balayla Hahu.
They don't say it louder. They say it with a nigger.
They do that also, but they say it louder.
Well, they do.
It says it should say it louder because that's what an
Shake it.
When-
There's Ageras Azos, the Chazan who says Ageras Azos. When you say the words Ageras Azos,
For him too, or for everybody?
for him.
Well,
For him. There's a custom that I do see in most places that the people themselves say the 10 sons of Haman in one breath. And Mishnah brings up Chayadam, there's no such custom. That the people should say the Aseres B'nai Haman.
Oh.
You do it probably.
Yeah.
If they do it all over, I don't know why they do it.
The rabbit show.
But it's because you can't be motzi in the Shimachas, then that must have been. I don't know if he meant it. I don't think he meant it.
No, because it was brisk off.
I don't know if he meant it.
Where's Hagirat Hazos? At the end?
Yesh al mila smach.
But there's another reason.
Where is
There's a
Towards
practical
the end, yeah.
There's a practical reason.
The practical reason is that the Chazan says it so fast that people don't hear him, or that he doesn't say it clearly. He misses a letter, so make sure you say it, then don't miss a letter. But the Chazan should read it again if the people do say it. So the Chazan, the Balkor should read it again in order that people should hear from the Megillah, not from Chumash.
No, they always do. I think.
But he's saying that there's no necessity to do it at all. He says, "Ain't no minhag." One time I read the Megillah and I didn't stop, and everybody was upset. We didn't say the 10 sons of Haman.
No, but the qualifier should say.
The Balkor says it.
Right.
Yes. But the minhag is that you stop and let the people say it, and then you say it. So I Mishnah Brewer, I didn't stop. So then people said you didn't stop.
They're letting themselves in trouble.
No.
Usually we're not going to trouble. We're not usually in trouble for such things.
Okay.
Making waves. In the early days.
Halacha 16.
There's
Ah, 17.
the issue brings a Rav Shulchan on this. It says, "V'tam l'chaim shenoigim b'tzibur likroi aseres b'nei Haman." It says, "Dear Rav Shulchan, says shetam ha'melech u'mishum shebezeh ha'ikra Yeshua." K'may b'talad p'sukim shel gula she'tas ha'kama shenoigim b'tzibur l'chaim.
One could say that it's not the Ikra Gula.
There's a smicha for that.
No problem. Wherever the custom comes from. But I'm sorry, but you see, they don't say 5 psukim, they say 10 psukim. So it doesn't say that. The same came to be, I don't know, about whatever the reason it came to be, it came to be.
No, there's a little bit of cheshuvas for this. I mean, what I understand is that it says that when we're reading the psukim of Parshas Zachor, you say Timcha Zeich Hamalek. What does it say? Timcha Zeich Hamalek. Uvezoro Zera Hamalek. Doesn't it say Zera Hamalek?
It says what he just says. Zecher Amalek. That's what he just said.
So where do you remember seeing that?
That's what it means. Zecher Amalek. So the Zecher means even for any kind of remembrance, even the children. It doesn't say the word, it says Zecher. That says it's more beferish. It says there shouldn't be any remembrance to them. I don't recall. Halacha 17. Minikol Yisrael, that the reader spreads out the Megillah like a letter. Means he doesn't keep it rolled up like a regular Sefer Torah or Navi, but you roll it out before the Kriya in order to show the Nes. I guess that was like an Igeris, the Haros HaNes. And when he finishes, then you roll it up and then say the bracha. So what does the Mishnah Berurah say? Yechidim don't do that. Individuals don't do it, only the Balkore. And you unroll it completely and don't leave it as a roll. Just fold it back.
This is more like a letter.
Right, that's what it says, right. Make sure it doesn't fall to the ground. Also, it shouldn't be hanging on the side of the bima. That would be a bizayon. So
Is that why we do the fold?
that's why they fold it back and forth.
Let's fold it again.
And then there are also probably other primi reasons why they do that. And then before you say the bracha after the Megillah, so to roll it up. This is where then the Ramah says what the Beleza mentioned about the 4 psukim. There's a custom that there are 4 psukim of Gula that you say out loud. The Mishabur before brought down the reason is because the kid shouldn't fall asleep. But he says the custom is because the psukim of Gula, the Chashav psukim, that these are the main psukim. Ish Yehudi, Mordechai Yatzal, Yehudim Ma'isar V'Simcha, Mordechai Yehudi. And this is the custom by the Ashkenazim at least. And the Chazan should read it again in order that it should be read from the Megillah. Also, there's a custom that the children, they make a picture of Haman on sticks and stones, or to write his name.
Wooden blocks.
And to bang them against each other in order that his name should be erased. I call it on the derech and of the custom of Mochel as a remembrance of Timcha Zecher Amalek to erase his name.
So that's not necessarily for the sound. It's not to make a noise.
It's not for the sound. It's not during the Megillah even. It's not even during the Megillah.
It's at home.
It's a custom during the day to take 2 sticks and write there and bang his name. Yeah, and from that came the minhag that they bang Haman when they read it in the Megillah. And don't stop the minhag, the Ramah says, or don't laugh at it because they were not affixed in vain. It means that don't make fun of any customs. But there became a big problem nowadays with the banging Haman that people don't hear the Megillah. So the Mishnah Berurah brings down the Maril did not do that. And the Yavitz also said the name of his father that he used to just bang his foot a little bit. And the Pri Megadim says that they lose out more than they gain because they confuse everybody. So some places recently they stopped making only the first and the last. And in any case, make sure that the Balkar reads it again in order that everyone should hear every word. And even the nun of Haman.
Even the nun.
Okay. And here's where the Mishnah brings down this thing of having a Megillah that to make sure that you read and at least have a chumash that in the case you miss the word, you should be able to read it Balpeh, you still will be Yotzei. The halacha 18. This is really what we spoke about a couple of days before, and here was where the halacha comes that the Megillah, both on the 14th to read the 14th or 15th, you have to try to have 10 people. If you can't, you read it anyway. It means that's a machlokas in the Gemara, but we try to do lachatchila. They should have 10 people, even though you're reading it on the right day, on your day, whatever it might be, but lachatchila have 10 people. The Ramah says yesh listapek if women are also good enough. But we said yesterday the women should be good enough. The Ramah says it's a suffix. Yesh listapek if women are good enough for that. The whole halach is only lachatchila, but if you don't have 10 people, you're still yotzei. But lachatchila to have 10 people, and it's a suffix if women also are enough to be considered 10 people. Here the Mishnah Berurah says, what's that? Right.
What do you mean by themselves?
I'm not following.
No, if they're counted part for the 10.
There's a man reading. There's a man reading, but you want to have 10 people, and you don't have. You have to have 10 men.
Part of the regular men.
Whatever. I don't know. We've been regular minion. It means 10 people.
With the men, it should be counted as one of the 10.
Or there's a minion for ladies, and there's one man reading, and the 10 is 9 women will be good enough. You have 9 women and 1 man. You have altogether 10. So theoretically, you can have 10 women also if a woman is reading. But we said it's better that a woman should not read, even for women. And the Mishnah Berurah says that yes, what? Oh, why? Yeah, that's the reason they say maybe. And the Mishnah Berurah says that the reason why women might count for 10 is because it's only because of pursuing needs. It's not a din minyan. It's just because it should be public. So that's also publicizing it. The Pri Megadim says that children, it seems that minors don't count, even if you say women do count, but minors not. It has to be 10 people that are obligated in the Megillah.
Because that's only for him.
Because they're not really obligated, right? Not really obligated. The Ramah continues that if they did read the Megillah b'tzibur and one person didn't hear it, or it happens sometimes a person missed something, so he's going to read it again. For that, you don't need 10 because there was already a tzibur reading that's good enough. And
so not because of the reading of
so therefore you can read it even without 10 people, since it was read with tzibur.
He didn't follow up the other 9 people.
He doesn't have to
the
call
person who did. Oh, what?
One person missed the word.
He missed word. He's
Oh,
gonna
he
have
missed
to
the whole
hear it
Megillah. He
again.
missed the whole
didn't
Megillah.
Ruin it for the other
He-
nine.
he
That's what
mi-
you're saying.
or not, yeah, yes, surely. But otherwise,
Surely, I
also,
thought that's what he's saying. He's saying if you have 10 people and then one turns out it's invalid because he didn't hear all the words, the other nine aren't,
I think not. I think that
they're still okay that they heard it was.
he doesn't say that. Maybe
That's
he
what I
could have said.
heard.
He says that that person himself. He doesn't even talk about the other nine. He says that that person who didn't hear it. I said it wrong. Start again. He says that there's there's people that read. One person didn't hear. Not he didn't hear one word. He didn't hear. He wasn't there. Wasn't able to come. There were 10 people that read. One person is at home. He didn't read a Megillah. Does he have to read also with 10 people? So he says if the tzibur read it and one person individuals didn't hear it, he could read it even lechatchila by himself, since they did have in the city a public reading.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, I see.
And I was just saying that it happens to people that they missed a word or something, a sentence,
Yes.
and they read the Megillah again. So surely you would say that he doesn't have to have a minyan. It's okay. There was a public reading.
Oh,
He
because
missed it.
there was a
public reading. That's what it
it's not
sounds like.
They have to go get some.
Remember
I see.
I once had I know kidney stone or hepatitis many years ago. A grandmother that this was your side came to my house and read it for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just read there quietly, very from the beginning to end. Think twice.
The Mishnah says this is not pasha. At this point, that just because the tzibur read it, the yachid doesn't have to. So he says that not everybody agrees to that. I had a friend that this is not agreed upon, and therefore, even in this case, also try to get 10 people. It means even if the tzibur did have a public reading, if someone didn't, he should.
You should try.
You should try. The Chabidiyah the Yosef, sure, but you should try and not to rely on the heter of the Ramah. There is an issue with that not this year, but when you read a Shalom Zman, if you read it on the day, it's not the real Purim. Like it comes out on Shabbos and you can read it the day before, whatever the case might be. So then you have to have 10 people. And it's not, then it's not only a chumrah.
Yeah.
There are some times that you read the Megillah not on the proper day, not on the day earlier. Right? Then you surely need them. You need the 10 people.
Like when it's Mishulash.
If it comes out on Shabbos, the 15th comes out on Shabbos, you need the Megillah on the 14th.
And then for sure.
Then for sure you need 10 people.
10.
Let's go, everybody. Thank you.
very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Rabbi Yaakov.